What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. In this video, we're looking at the Wednesday NBA slate. We have 9 games on tap for tonight, starting at 7 o'clock. So let's get started. As always, appreciate if you guys hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. Kind of a weird day yesterday. Vucevic did go nuts, but Cole Anthony had like under 10 fantasy points. DeJounte Murray had under 10 fantasy points. Some of the guys that I was on did really bad. So hopefully today turns around. I mean, I wasn't expecting Murray and Anthony to be that bad. And then, Popovich did kind of screwed some things up yesterday with his rotations. But new day today. Let's get into it. Point guard options: you have Luka Doncic, James Harden, LeBron, who's probably going to play as he always does, even though he's listed questionable. Those are the guys above 10,000. If you wanted to go to one guy, it would probably be James Harden without Durant, but you do have some other great options at point guard that are cheaper. Kyrie is 9,100. You can play him over Harden if you wanted to. You have LaMelo Ball, who's really cheap. Well, not super cheap, but he's been playing great. Price tag keeps going up, but he has a 50, 60 point upside at a cheap price tag in terms of still hitting value at 8,500. Then you have Russell Westbrook, who is cheaper than Ball, which you probably never would have thought heading into the season. He's $8,400 against Toronto. The minutes have been down the past few because of blowouts, but he's a guy that rested the last game, so he should be good to go today. If this game is close at home, he's going to play huge minutes like 33, 35, and I think 84 is just too cheap for Westbrook, given his triple-double upside, given the fact that he has shown that if in close games, he's going to be able to hit his value because he's going to be out there. So hopefully this game is close. With Washington, you never know, but I'd like to hope that because 84 for Westbrook is just really cheap. Brogdon is only 74 against the Brooklyn Nets, who give up 120 points per game to everybody. He gave up 120 plus to the Pistons last night. Back to back, I would assume the Pacers will be able to put up a high score against them. So Brogdon price tag is really cheap. His production has come down a bit because his shots haven't really been falling. But tough matchups against Utah, against the Bucks. So much easier spot here against the Nets. He's my second favorite guy to target. On the Pacers, I'd rather go to Sabonis. Other guys at point guard, besides Brogdon, you have Morant, who's pretty cheap at 73. Lowry, who left the game last time with the back injuries, should be good to go. He's been playing great basketball. He's cheap. Matchup can't get really any better against Washington, so don't mind taking a shot on Kyle Lowry. Then we have like Sexton, Murray priced to 7,000. I probably will pass on them given the other options. Rozier is cheap enough that we can consider at 6,200. And then you have Lou Williams. If there is no Patrick Beverly again, he could be a punt play against probably the low-owned play against Minnesota, but they give up a ton of points. Kenrich Williams is now point guard eligible, which is pretty surprising. 47 looks all right. I like a couple other guys on Thunder though. And then you have depending on the status of Chris Paul, we could look to some Suns, especially Devin Booker, and then they started each one more last game. He's like small forward eligible if he plays. I mean, if he starts again without Paul. Then you have Augustine, also cheap, but Forbes started last time in place of Holiday. So, guy I'll probably start with is Russell Westbrook, just because you normally never get a price tag at 84 for Westbrook. He gives you a pretty low floor as he's shown, but he gives you still a monster ceiling. If this game is close, then he's gonna be out there, and he's gonna be probably the reason the game stays close. But if it also blows out, he might be the reason it blows out because some games he just can't hit a shot, shooting barely over 40% from the floor. But I will probably bite that price tag on Westbrook given his upside. Shooting guard, Beal is 93. I'd rather go to Westbrook at $900 cheaper. Levine is 9,000. Probably go to some other options today, like Devin Booker. If there's no Chris Paul, is 8,100. He will just have to do everything. That Bucks Phoenix game is going to be interesting. The Thunder Lakers game is also interesting, especially from the Thunder side. You have Diallo is 6,500. I will plug him in just because he is going to have to be the point guard and just going to have to be the playmaker today. They are going to be without SGA today. So they're back down to 8 guys. They're getting Roby back, but they're going to be without SGA. So we should see high 30s in minutes for Diallo, a guy that is a great producer when he's out there. Rebounds the ball. Will probably get more assist opportunities today. I think he looks great. Then, depending on the status of D'Angelo Russell, we could potentially look to Anthony Edwards. At 62, Rozier looks in play either way. At 62, without Devontae Graham. And then I do like Lamb against Nets just because he's still nicely priced. You have DiVincenzo looks to be a good option at 5,200. And then you have a couple of good punt plays here with Bryn Forbes, who's 3,800. Probably start once again in place of Holiday, playing in the mid 20s in minutes, high 20s. Could be a really good value play at 3,800. But Diallo looks great. And then you also have Dort, who's small forward slash shooting guard eligible. He's 4,400. He also looks good. Small forward, tough to get away from Chris Middleton. Without Holiday, is going to be the playmaker, the guy with the ball in his hands. Him and Giannis are going to dominate. Almost had a triple double last game against Denver. He's just gonna play more minutes, be more productive in those minutes, just because there's another less usage guy out there. Like the difference in usage between Bryn Forbes and Holiday is pretty massive. So Middleton's price tag hasn't really changed much. I mean, so I definitely think he looks to be a great option. Probably my favorite play on the Bucks, just based on the price tag. I like Giannis too. Hayward looks decent to 77. I'd rather go up to Middleton though, and then have some decent options in the 5K range, but none of them jump off the page. Like Kuzma is expensive. Miles Bridges is also pretty expensive, 57. He's been playing good off the bench though. Patrick Williams also price tag keeps going up. I like Lamb a bit, and then I'll probably go with some value plays here with Dort. Josh Hart had like a million rebounds last night. Played 40 minutes. Zion had big time foul trouble, so he benefited from that. But 17 boards for Josh Hart did his best Russell Westbrook impression. Then you have like Luke Kennard, Equan Moore, depending on some injuries on the Clippers, and if Chris Paul's out, then Moore would be in play. Bane is over 4,000 now, still looks decent. He drew the start last game, so that will probably be the case going forward. And that's it. I don't see any cheap options. Really, maybe you could look to Darius Miller at the min prices because they have 8 guys. Power forward, Giannis looks great at 10.6. Sabonis looks excellent at 8,600. Porzingis also looks good. Then you have Siakam, Zion on a back-to-back, but he didn't have to play much yesterday. Don't think I'll get Collins. Thad Young is decent, but there's some other options that I like. Baisley looks great at 6,100. They are without their best playmaker, so a guy that took 21 shots in the overtime game is going to have to be out there and play huge minutes. And he can be he can show a big time ceiling this season, especially with the lack of bodies. Like he's going to have every opportunity. And then we have some decent price tags. I don't think I'll go with anybody in the 5. I mean, Washington is pretty cheap at 53. Always gets overlooked because he tends to be in foul trouble. But if he doesn't foul, then could be a good option at that cheap price tag. Bertans drew the start, but I'm not playing him with Westbrook and Beal playing. And then you have Roby, who's really cheap at 37. Last time when they were short on bodies, they started Roby, Baisley, and Horford in the front court, and that's probably what they'll do today if Anthony Davis is in, just because of how big this Lakers play. But the guy that I'll definitely have in my lineup is most likely Sabonis right now, 8,600. Just a spot where he should absolutely dominate the glass. DeAndre Jordan cannot defend anyone. Sabonis, tough matchup against Utah, tough matchup against Steven Adams the previous game, and then did very well against the Milwaukee Bucks. It's a spot where he should be back to playing big time minutes. They had a couple of days off, which is good for them because they were playing a ton of games in a short span. So he should be well rested, and he's a guy that has 60-point upside at only 8,600. So I'm going to try to kind of get some guys that have that sort of ceiling. Like Westbrook has 60-point upside at 80, sub 8,500 price. Same thing with Sabonis. And then center options, you have Cavs started Jared Allen in place of Larry Nance, so it's not going to be super productive just because he's playing next to Drummond, who's still going to get a ton of rebounds, but I think he's worth a shot at 5,800. Horford looks good, but I like Baisley. If I had to pick between the two, they both look pretty similar, but I think Baisley gives you a little bit more minutes upside and a little bit more ceiling. Then you could play Giannis if you had more salary, if you didn't want to play Sabonis. I probably won't get to Drummond. And then, like Horford, Baisley both look good. You have Zeller as a decent option. Turner if you wanted to save some money instead of Sabonis. And mainly it. Like you have Alex Len as a cheap pump play at 4,400. He's been starting. You do 8 minutes in the start and you do 21 minutes in the start. You never know what you're going to get from the Wizards and Scott Brooks. Um, I could definitely have him. He does have a ceiling at 4,400. And then I do think you can go to Roby at 37. And then last but not least, um, we'll go ahead and put in Lou Dort just because he's only $4,400. He's going to be out there playing like 35, 40 minutes tonight. Without SGA, it's just going to help the entire team in terms of getting more shots and more usage. The Dort on the season hasn't been great for fantasy, but it's very rare that they've had games without Maladon, without SGA, without Hill, just without a lot of their playmakers and a lot of their ball handlers. Like Dort has been pretty bad shooting, but he can get some defensive stats, can get some rebounds, and I would assume you'll be able to score 10 plus points tonight, 10 plus real life points just with how thin they are. So that's pretty much it. I think the couple late night games are really interesting, especially if Chris Paul sits with the Sun side. The Buck side already looks interesting. The Thunder side looks great. If Davis happens to sit, then you can go to the Lakers side. And then I do like the Pacers quite a bit tonight. And then I think you can look to like a couple one-offs like Westbrook. Maybe look to this Clippers Timberwolves game depending on some injuries. So pretty much it for the DraftKings side. Go ahead and jump over to FanDuel. All right, on FanDuel here, point guard options. You have two guys above 10,000, Trae Young and Luka Doncic. Probably lean to Luka, but I don't think I'll get to either one. Westbrook is tougher to get to on FanDuel at 97. LaMelo Ball looks good at 8,200. Chris Paul looks solid. You have a great price tag on Brogdon at 72. And then you have Diallo checking in at 65. I'm just going to go with Diallo just because of all the extra usage, the extra minutes, more production. Just hopefully the Thunder can keep it close. Maybe it'll be a good thing if Anthony Davis sits just so the game happens to be closer. And you have Ricky Rubio if there's no D'Angelo Russell looks to be a decent option. And that's pretty much it. I won't go too cheap here. Shooting guard options, it's a couple guys above 9,000, Van Fleet, Levine, Harden, Beal. I won't get to Beal never at 10-6 with Westbrook playing. Van Fleet, also tough to get to, personally, when you have Lowry super cheap compared to his price tag and you have Siakam cheap. Levine looks great, but some other option, I don't know if I want to spend all the way up for Levine. If there's no Chris Paul, then Devin Booker is just an auto play at 7,700, so probably a good idea to leave one of your shooting guard spots available to make some late swaps because you would want to get to Devin Booker at that price tag. You have Lamb looks decent, Lou Williams looks decent, Edwards, if there's no Russell, looks great. Then going cheaper, you have Dante DiVincenzo at only 4,700. Seems to be a price tag to jump on. Good price tag on Malik Monk. Um, Forbes is 42, so I'll probably still get to DiVincenzo given the $500 difference. And that's pretty much it. So Devin Booker, Dante DiVincenzo, probably the two that I really like right now. Booker dependent on Paul, but hopefully we'll get that news before lock. Small forward, Kawhi Leonard is 9,700. I don't think I talked about him on DraftKings, but he's 94 on DraftKings. I mean, he hasn't been as productive as we thought without Paul George, but the matchup can't get really any better. He's in play on both sides. Middleton is definitely going to be a guy that I get to at 7,600. I like Gordon Hayward. Beasley coming off of a big game, but price tag is jumped on him, so I think I'd rather go to Middleton, Hayward, a couple guys that have been more consistent. And then we have in the 5K range, you have Bridges, decent punt option. If there's no Chris Paul, then you can go to the other Bridges. Mikal Bridges looks good. And you have Kenrich Williams, 45, just because they're super thin. You have Dort at only 43, Valentine at 44. So probably go with one of the Dorts, Valentines, Kenrich Williams of the worlds. And if you want to be really tricky, maybe you can go with Josh Hart. But you did kind of get lucky with the extra minutes with Zion foul trouble. Power forward, it's Sabonis, looks great at 93. Giannis, those are the two that I really want to try to get to at the top end. The mid range, it's definitely Baisley. Definitely Baisley at that price tag. Even if Davis sits, I won't get to Kuzma. He didn't even start last time Davis sat. They started Morris. Roby is expensive, so I won't get to him on FanDuel at 5,000. And then Kaminsky, if there's no Paul and no Crowder, could be a decent option. Patrick Williams looks good. So plenty of options here, but the best is probably Sabonis. And then last but not least, at center here, you have Jokic all the way up to 11-1 against Cleveland. I probably won't get to him at that price tag, just because I like some other guys and some other builds. Drummond is cheap, so 77 for him looks good on FanDuel. DeAndre Ayton looks decent if there's no Chris Paul. Al Horford looks solid at 62. And then you have Cody Zeller looks pretty solid at 5,200 as well. If you want us to go cheap. So right now I like the price tag on Cody Zeller, 5,200. Against the Grizzlies, they're getting Valanciunas. Valanciunas been back for a few games. He had a monster game last time out. You could take a shot with Valanciunas if you wanted to as well. 7,200. I feel like some people will chase that, but I think I like Horford, who's $1,000 cheaper, or Cody Zeller's $2,000 cheaper. So these five still leaves you with 66.75 left for the other four spots. So thanks for watching. I'll definitely have a lot of Milwaukee exposure. Definitely have a lot of Thunder exposure. And yeah, those are my two favorite teams. Some exposure to the Pacers like Sabonis, and then the Hornets look good just because they've been running a tight rotation without Graham. Oh, that's it for the video. Thank you guys for watching. If you guys enjoyed, be sure to hit the like button, and best of luck tonight.